They didn't have these in art class 100 years ago. You ever wonder what they did have? Well, I can tell you that in France, they had this, a beautiful sort of Art Nouveau style color wheel with no date. So how do I know it's 100 years old? Well, based on two things. I know a copy was included as an insert in the 1926 edition of the Larousse Ménager, or Household Encyclopedia. So it was published no later than 1926. And look at this little symbol, the O and the 5-pointed Maltese asterisk, which means officier in the Legion of Honor, a rank that Cabanès achieved in 1926. So this was printed no earlier than 1926. Let's talk about Louis Cabanès and his collaborator, the much younger Charles-Robert Bellenfant, two painters, but I like to think of these two guys as the art history version of a buddy cop movie. Cabanès was 59, a chevalier, a seasoned exhibitor in the Paris Salon, a traditional academic painter serving as inspecteur of drawing in the city of Paris public schools. Meanwhile, Bellenfant was 29, on the rise, full of spit and vinegar, hanging around with Montparnasse cubists, but he was also a teacher and a member of the Société des Artistes, eventually exhibiting at the Salon as well, and finally taking over Cabanès's role as Paris Inspector of Drawing in 1937. So this collaboration represents the intersection of two parallel careers, 30 years apart, but on the same trajectory. And in 1926, they both saw the need for a pedagogical tool for demonstrating color relationships, harmonies, and contrasts in the classroom. Let's look at the cover. It says, most people that are uninitiated in the rules that govern the relationships between colors and tones and nuances or hues, they bump into problems often, very often, that they cannot overcome. The Harmonicolor permits or allows them to overcome those difficulties pretty much automatically. It's based on the dictum that combinations of colors basically boil down always to finding harmonies, either harmonies or contrasts. That wording actually gives us a clue as to the underpinnings of their system of color theory. Most later color theorists who talk about harmony actually lump together complementary contrasts, monochromatic schemes, and analogous schemes, and they consider them all to be harmonies. But Cabanès and Bellenfant distinguish harmonies and contrasts because they've inherited their color theory directly from Michel-Eugène Chevreul. Chevreul's 1839 book on the law of simultaneous contrast of colors groups harmonies into two types. Harmonies of analogy, where the colors share some element, either hue or vividness, and harmonies of contrast, where colors differ greatly in lightness or hue. The second page of the Harmonicolor describes harmonies in a way clearly derived from Chevreul's typology. First, we have harmony of ton sur ton, or camailleux, which was a term then in use in arts and crafts for monochromatic designs. Chevreul called this harmony harmonie de gamme, or gamut, meaning scale, based on the comparison of a musical scale to a scale of different values of the same hue. So ton also means like a musical note, and ton sur ton literally means the color harmony is like a melody of different notes of the same color scale. Then we have harmonie des nuances. That French word nuance is often translated as like a shade of color, but in Chevreul's system, the term implies what we call hue, position around the color wheel. Two nuances in harmony are similar colors of a similar character. If their lightness and chroma matches, therefore, the only way for two to be different somehow is by having different hues. But if you look at the harmonie de nuance in the Harmonicolor, they've actually sort of dumbed down Chevreul's concept a little bit. Here it says, you get there by way of des nuances d'une couleur mélangée avec ses voisines, a color mixed with its neighbors. You can actually see here, la nuance is sort of defined as variation of hue, variation to coloration of a color with its neighbors, right? They have kind of no other way to term that because the modern definition of hue hasn't really entered the lexicon at this time. I find this super interesting because this may be, in fact, where Chevreul's more nuanced description of similar hue harmony got simplified into the modern idea of analogous colors, which you can still find on color wheels today. How interesting is that? This has been episode 16 of Color Wheel Wednesday. If this is your jam, check out the rest of the playlist. Leave a comment, loiter on the channel, all that jazz. I'll see you around. Thanks.